The term Faustian culture, as coined by Oswald Spengler, reflects the ethos of Western civilization from the High Middle Ages to the contemporary era. Named after the legendary German figure Faust, a scholar who makes a pact with the devil in exchange for infinite knowledge and boundless worldly pleasures. Faustian culture epitomizes humanity's unquenchable thirst for knowledge and power. Spengler traces its origins to the northern European plains around the 10th century, marking a significant shift towards viewing space as infinite, a concept that profoundly influenced all subsequent cultural expressions. The Faustian approach to science and mathematics is dominated by an intense desire to uncover the universe's underlying laws to enable prediction and control. The invention of calculus by luminaries like Newton and Leibniz provided the necessary tools to describe change and motion, reflecting the era's profound technological and exploratory ambitions. This pursuit underlines a broader goal of penetrating nature's secrets through precise calculation and theoretical frameworks. This hunger extends to existential and metaphysical questions as well. Here, Faustian culture emphasizes individualism and the subjective human experience. Philosophers like Kant and Hegel examined the limits of human understanding and the dialectical processes of history, showcasing the culture's introspective and forward-moving ethos. The ethics of Faustian culture prioritize an ethic of distance, which champions the individual's struggle towards an ideal, often at the expense of personal and communal peace. This ethos is mirrored in the hierarchical social structures that facilitate continuous striving and expansion. In the realm of art, the Faustian spirit is vividly illustrated through the innovation of linear perspective during the Renaissance, which introduced the illusion of infinite space on a flat canvas. This significant shift towards dynamic forms that convey movement and development can be seen in the works of Renaissance masters like Albrecht Dürer and Leonardo da Vinci, who moved away from the symbolic and static style of the Middle Ages to embrace a more lifelike and explorative artistic expression. Architecturally, the Gothic cathedral stands as the quintessence of Faustian aspirations, with its soaring spires and flying buttresses, which symbolize a yearning to transcend earthly confines. This style is not merely a technical mastery over stone, but an aesthetic endeavor to embody the infinite, reflecting the overarching Faustian motif of reaching beyond the visible and tangible. In music, the Faustian spirit is expressed through a focus on polyphony and harmonic development. The evolution of orchestral music, characterized by complex interplays of themes and motifs, exemplifies the Western pursuit of depth, complexity, and expansion of expressive possibilities, a stark contrast to the monophonic focus of other cultures. Spengler suggests that, like all cultures, Faustian culture is subject to a life cycle of birth, growth, and decay. The decay phase for Faustian culture is marked by a retreat into materialism and a loss of spiritual and intellectual vitality, leading to cultural sterility and an eventual decline. Overall, Faustian culture is defined by a relentless ambition to push beyond the boundaries of the known world, whether through scientific discovery, geographic exploration, or artistic innovation. This culture is propelled by a unique vision of space as something to be mastered and understood, leading to a characteristic emphasis on depth, perspective, and the infinite in its cultural outputs. In his 1918 work, The Decline of the West, Oswald Spengler studied the Apollonian culture of Hellenic classical antiquity. The name Apollonian, meant to evoke the Greek god Apollo, describes the soul of classical civilization, which he believes is marked by a strong sense of present and visible form. It denotes a world-view characterized by clarity, balance, and a striving for timeless perfection, visible in its art, architecture, and philosophy. This contrasts to the Magian culture's sense of infinity and the Faustian culture's expansive future orientation. The Apollonian culture is one of bounded worldliness and finite expression, where life and art strive for measured, harmonious forms, epitomized in the statues of gods and heroes, which present an idealized, serene, and self-contained existence. Apollonian culture has its roots in the spirit of the Greek polis and Roman imperialism. It was defined by a clear-eyed, assertive spirit that manifested in political and cultural structures that promoted a strong sense of civic duty and public life. The conditions of the Apollonian culture include a climate of political strife and intellectual rivalry, which fostered a competitive ethos among city-states like Athens and Sparta, and later among the Roman elite. Apollonians depicted man as a microcosm of order, reflecting the cosmos's harmony. This view is vividly expressed through their art and architectural principles, such as the use of symmetry, proportion, and the emphasis on spatial clarity, all of which aim to represent a rational and comprehensible universe. The culture thus prioritized the visible, tangible world, emphasizing spatial clarity and proportion in its art and architecture. In its art, the human body was central, celebrated through sculptures that emphasized anatomical perfection. This art was not about transcending physical limits, but about perfecting and glorifying them within clear boundaries. The decline of the Apollonian culture was linked with its worldview. It could no longer innovate or transcend its own limitations. Like all civilizations in Spengler's framework, Apollonian stagnation is exemplified in its later phases by its art and philosophy becoming repetitive and overly focused on past forms without substantial innovation. In its totality, Apollonian was a central civilization characterized by an obsession with the physical world and the limits of intuitive, tangible objects. The 20th century philosopher Oswald Spengler wrote at length in The Decline of the West about the Magian civilization, which emerged from the Arabian deserts and eventually formed Judaism, early and Eastern Christianity, and finally Islam. Like all civilizations, the Magians reflected their environment, with its vast emptiness and overarching sky giving rise to a cosmology that is cavernous and dome-like, enveloping the individual in a universe that is closed yet infinite within its bounds. Emerging after the reign of Cyrus the Great in Persia and the Near East, it first appeared in the religious and philosophical spheres in regions stretching from Persia to the Near East, around the time of the Persian and Jewish religions after Cyrus the Great. This period also saw the integration of apocalyptic and eschatological visions into these religions, notably influenced by teachings in the Book of Daniel. Central to its thought is a belief in a dualistic world where the universe as a cavern contains both the spiritual and the mundane, interwoven in a cosmological and metaphysical framework. This dualism is evident in its religious architecture and iconography, which frequently utilizes symbols such as the gold ground in mosaics, signifying a spiritual world that transcends the physical and visible. Magian culture is particularly noted for its transition from polytheism to a distinct form of monotheism, where earlier polytheistic gods were absorbed into a single, more abstract deity. This monotheism was not just a simple consolidation of gods, but a complex theological evolution characterized by a new emphasis on the transcendental and unrepresentable nature of God, contrasting sharply with the more human-like gods of classical cultures. The Magian culture profoundly influenced the socio-political landscape of the Middle East and beyond. Its monotheistic religious ideals helped shape the political and cultural frameworks of the Byzantine and Islamic empires, guiding the development of laws, social norms, and governmental structures that were deeply imbued with religious significance.